It's time for the Coach Groves Show, where we sit down with the head coach of the Darlington Tigers football team and talk about all things Darlington School football. Now we go live to Matt Davis and Ian Griffin, who are standing by with Coach Wayne Groves.
And yes, we are standing by, or sitting by, as we say, with Coach Groves as we get ready for the Game 6 edition of the program. And we're super excited to have Coach Groves with us today so we can talk about some Darlington Tigers football. So first of all, Coach, how are you doing today, sir?
We're doing good. We're doing good. We're just finished practice number 3 this week, and the weather held off for us, so that was a good thing. So we feel good about, tomorrow morning and doing our last little run through and be ready for the game on Friday. So it's been a good week.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to go ahead and dive into our questions for this week, Coach, and we're going to start with a few questions about last week's game. Of course, you opened up region play against Haralson County at home. Wasn't the result you were looking for, but regardless of the result, always going to be some positive things as well as things that you look at on film that you have to work on, those sorts of things. So let's start with the positive things and the things that you felt like the team did really well last week.
Well, one, Haralson County is a really good football team, and, they're huge up front. I'd say they probably average right around 300 pounds up front. And we knew that was going to be a tough task for us, but it was this one we were ready for the challenge. Our kids fought. They played hard, didn't always play well. In those ball games, we try to tell them that, that's when you play a team that's bigger or maybe a little bit better than you, that's when your technique, your fundamentals, and your skills become the most important. And unfortunately, sometimes teenagers have to learn things the hard way. Sometimes they think that's a suggestion, but we work through that. So it's a learning curve. But we fought hard. We didn't quit, and then we learned some valuable lessons there, and we came out injury free. So some lessons were learned, some lessons were taught, and then we're ready for this week and ready to turn the page and move on.
Well, Coach, I want to take the opportunity with this next question to talk about last week's Honeymoon Bakery icing on the cake player of the game. It was Bo Powers, and he made a couple of plays, but the one that stood out the most to me in the first half, ball hits the ground, and the Haralson County defender, he had it. He had it secure, and Bo popped in there and just stripped it back. It was a hustle play, prevented a turnover on what looked like was going to be an opening scoring drive. Later in the game, he was also able to recover another ball that hit the turf. Had some good runs. To me, that just embodies everything that you have instilled in your football team. Playing scrappy, and it was an impact play, and he got the player of the game. So talk about the grit that he put out there on the field.
Well, I'm a huge Bo Powers fan. I call him Bodie Bo. But no, Bo, he does a great job. He's an extremely hard worker. He's a throwback kid. He's came through a lot of adversity that people don't know about, and I think it's just made him a tougher kid, made him a better player. After his freshman year, he had a little fracture in his leg that took him out for a little while. He worked hard, rehabbed that back. He got his bench press up to about 260 pounds. And then, the offseason, he had his finger at the end of the regular season last year. He tore a ligament in his finger, so he had to rehab that. Was able to get his leg strength back up to his squats over 315 pounds. And then he had to rehab his finger. And then he's got had a shoulder issue earlier in the year, and he just works through it. He keeps rehabbing. He's very resilient, and he's a vital member of our football team. Obviously people see him running the ball and scoring touchdowns, but what he brings is some physicality in the run game. He's a very good blocker, and I always tell him, one blocker's worth 2 ball carriers. So a kid that commits to that and just doing anything he can to help the team win. He's a valuable member of our football team.
All right, Coach, this is the Coach Groves Show. We got a couple more questions left here of our opening segment, so we'll jump into the next one. But we talked about some of the positive that happened last week, but let's talk about some of the areas when you guys looked on film, studied the game film from last week, getting ready for this next game, that you felt like you guys needed to work on after last week's game.
Yeah. We'll just continue to work on us, working on getting 1% better each day. Doing it with more intensity, more physicality, playing faster, playing lower, seeing, how good we can take it. Offense, defense, special teams, we're not going to, change our plan because we lost a football game. We're going to stick with the course. We're going to stick with our plan and our fundamentals of getting the kids better and just keep improving. This is a marathon season. It's not a sprint. And so we want to be playing our best football. And, once week 9, week 10, the playoffs start. That's just been the plan of action.
Excellent, Coach. Well, this year's group has faced just about every type of adversity that you can throw at them through the halfway point of a season. But they have exemplified that next play, next man up, next game mentality that you have to have over the course of such a tough schedule. So with that said, what has the tone of practice been like this week?
It's been really good. The first thing that I worry about all weekend, just come back in is what is our mental state going to be? And that's the first thing I'm going to address with them. So, for me, and I think mostly for the kids too, on Friday night, you get pissed, you get pissed that, you lost the ball game. And then Saturday, you kind of get down a little bit. But then about Saturday afternoon, you get yourself going again. You look in the mirror and you go back to work. So for the kids, when they came in on Monday, they were ready. I didn't have to give them a rah-rah speech or anything like that. I could see it in their eyes that they were ready to get the bad taste out of their mouth and let's move on and let's get ready for Pepperell. And so that's what they've done. They've had a workman-type mentality this week. It's been physical practices, and I feel like that they'll be ready to perform on Friday.
And I think I know the answer to this little aside to that question. Some coaches, it's a rivalry game, no question about it. Some coaches treat those a little bit different. I don't get the feeling that you do.
Well, we're going to respect every one of our opponents,
yeah.
And we're going to prepare for them the same way. Does this have a little more implications? Yeah, sure it does. When you go back home and, you want to go and make sure your team's ready to play and give a good showing. So I feel like our team's ready, and I feel like that they'll play hard, and we'll see what the result will be. But if they play hard, I'm going to be happy, to be their leader and to be their coach. And, if we do what we're supposed to do, we can win this game.
This is the Coach Groves Show, everybody. We've got a lot to come. In our final segment of the show, we're going to talk all about the next opponent and the game at Pepperell. But in our next segment, the middle segment of the show, we've got some fun stuff. We're going to talk about the black shirts, which is always, I think, a fan favorite. We always enjoy hearing about that and the hard work the kids are putting in to this football team. Then we're going to bring back, after about a half-season hiatus, back by popular demand, the Getting to Know Coach Groves question of the week makes its triumphant return. And there's a little Easter egg, so to speak. I know it's fall stuff on the table here, but it's related to our questions. We'll throw a reference in there. I don't know if you can pick it out. It's kind of small right there in front of the Darlington Tigers helmet. More on that in a little bit. So we've got that coming up and more. So we're excited to be here and hanging out with Coach Groves. We're going to take a break, and we're glad you're with us. So we'll return in just moments.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Coach Groves Show. We're jumping into segment 2, and we always start this segment by talking about the black shirts, which is an honor if you're a Darlington Tiger football player. So, Coach, tell us about the guys who earned those honors this week.
This is going to be a rare one, but it is what it is, and this is what was voted upon. So on offense, I thought he blocked really well. I thought he made some plays in the passing game and caught some balls. So Trey Moore gets the offensive black shirt. Trey has just really come on. He's a junior cornerback, wide receiver, very athletic kid, but he's getting better each week. So Trey Moore gets the black shirt. On defense, finally, in the second half, we had a corner that would come up and force the ball inside in cover 2, and that was Trey Moore. So his physicality of coming up and setting the edge and not letting the ball outside of him, like some of the other guys did, Trey Moore gets the defensive black shirt.
Are we going for a clean sweep here?
On special teams, he's getting better at punting the dang ball.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
Had some really great kicks. kicked it away from the returners where they really couldn't get a return on it and flip the field a couple of different times. So special teams, Trey Moore is wearing the special teams black shirt. So he's been wearing 3 black shirts all week.
That's awesome.
On simulation offense, this is 2 of my new guys, but he's in there running simulation tight end all last week, and he's doing a really good job, and he just keeps getting better and better. And hopefully he's going to break into that starting lineup pretty soon. Me and him have been talking about it, and he's just got to take ownership, and he can definitely come and do that. But that's my freshman tight end, defensive end, Mitchell Ralton. And he's number 35, but he's really done a good job. He's starting to really kind of get a feeling of the offense. And so once it gets a little more comfortable, he's going to be out there contributing even more. And then on simulation defense, this is a kid, it's Mitchell's brother, Maddox Ralton. All right, so Maddox is a junior. All right, we're working on his hardship right now, but he is not allowed to play varsity competition, but he is allowed to practice. And so he's out there on simulation O, he's out there on simulation D. He's given a great look. He's had a great attitude, even though he can't go out there and play. And I think that's just shows what kind of young man he is, just a great kid that's out there just to help the team. And this is probably long overdue, but Maddox Ralton gets the simulation D black shirt.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, jumping into our next question, and this one requires, I think, a little bit of background, but Ian and I have the pleasure each and every Thursday morning on the morning show that we do on WLAQ to talk to Georgia Bulldog legend Lauren Smith, who was a sideline reporter, of course, for Larry Muntz. And I know you know
Turn the TV down and turn Larry up.
Yep.
I mean, that's how you do it.
We absolutely love talking to him. He's a wealth of history, knowledge in terms of Georgia football and just about every other sports-related thing and that sort of thing. But the other day when we were talking to him, he started talking about the difference in technology in terms of how you watch film nowadays compared to the old days. And obviously, you don't go as far back as he does in terms of, as long as you've been a coach and that sort of thing, but you've been coaching for over a couple of decades. So I know that the way technology has shifted in everything we do, that you've seen just a massive shift in terms of when you started coaching and what it was like in the film room to where we are now. So we're just curious, based on him talking about that, what that experience has been like for you and your staff over the years as technologies move forward and that sort of thing, what it looks like versus what it was when you started.
Yeah, that's a great question, and really it has changed tremendously. So this is my 23rd year of coaching high school football. So when we first started 23 years ago, I was at Upson Lee High School, and so you still had VHS.
Splice and film?
You still had VCR. No, there was no splice and film.
Yeah.
So VHS, VCR. We still had to go to the Waffle House or McDonald's on Saturday morning and trade whoever drew the short straw that week. Usually the young coach, which was, the low man on the totem pole, would go and have to trade the film with the other coach. Usually there was no way to check the film. Sometimes you'd get good film. Sometimes you'd get blank tapes. Sometimes you may get, I don't know, The Land Before Time, just whatever, just what you got. And, but that was, and then you'd have to go back and you do everything by hand. You'd write down left hash, middle hash, right hash. You'd watch the formation, you'd write the play scheme, and then you'd go back and you'd compile all the data and, see, this is what they do the most. This is their top run plays, pass plays, formations, all that stuff. And then you'd come up with a game plan for that. Now it's just a little more streamlined. Now we have online film trade. So these young coaches, man, they're just spoiled. They don't have to do any of this stuff. So there's online film trade. So you don't have to, take 2 or 3 hours out of your Saturday to do that. You just film online. Now you get a preview of the film when they send it to you. That's what's pretty cool about it. You get a preview. You get about 3 or 4 clips you get to watch to make sure that the film's good. It is the team they say it is, and that and they have to confirm your film as well. So there's some checks and balances there to make sure that you get good film. So that's a plus. And the next thing is, there's a little more work on the front end as far as inputting data. So when you get a film, you're gonna put quarter, hash, down and distance, yard line, gain of the play, loss of the play, type of play, run, pass. You're going to put in formations. You're going to put in offensive play, whether it's, power or counter, strong or weak, that kind of thing. And then you can run your reports to get a picture of what the team you are playing. And you do the same thing for offense when you're scouting another team's defense. You're going to put in their defensive front. You're going to put in their coverages. You're going to put in their blitzes. You're going to put in the formations they do it against, then down and distances, all that. And then you're going to put all that data in. So once you get that data, you can the reports you can make are unlimited. Now we have certain things that we look for on offense, certain things on defense. Not going to tell you what we look for to do our game plan, but it is very valuable. So, for what would take maybe 7 or 8 hours, 23 years ago, that's something that could be done in 3 or 4 hours. So it cuts the workload of time definitely in half. So, it's definitely a valuable tool, and we use it for our scouting reports. We can share it with the kids online. We can make cut-ups and playlists to share with the kids that they can view. And it's just come a long way. In the past, the only time we'd be able to watch film with the kids was where they were there. Now we can share it with the kids, and we can watch it with them in person, which we do a lot of too.
That's incredible, man. And as you're describing how the young coaches today, they don't know how tough it was back in those days, it makes me think about when I was at Jacksonville State and I was taking an audio production class, and we had a professor, and at that time we did have digital, editing technology and stuff like that. But he wanted us to know how hard it was back in the day. So what he would do is have like physical tape. We'd record something on it, and we'd have to take like a cutting block and actually edit the tape and splice it together and all that kind of stuff. And we picked up what he was trying to tell us for sure.
My internship at ESPN, I did exactly what you're talking about. I watched every play on a football or basketball game and would watch it from every angle and notate exactly what happened, what the angle was, so that they could run it on Sports Center and put their package, their highlight packages together. So, yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah, one of the unique things now too, and a lot of people don't know this about Huddle, the editing system, that just about every NFL team, every college team, every high school team has Huddle. It was invented by a group of GAs at the University of Nebraska, and they just made it for the University of Nebraska, and they're like, "Oh man, this is really great." And then they opened it up, and it's a multi-million-dollar company at this point. But one of the things that they have now is if you buy the Huddle top package, you get what's called Huddle Assist. And this is where the young coaches are even more spoiled. And I may get rid of the Huddle Assist just so they got to do a little extra work. I don't know. But on Huddle Assist, they'll go in and they'll do the down and distance for you already. They'll do the yard line. They'll do the gain, run, pass already. So that cuts out, that would be one coach's job, because we used to split it up. Each coach would have certain things that they would do. Like, I would always break down the offensive play, the run concept, pass concept. And then we'd have a coach. Coach Collier does offensive formations, motion, shifts, trades, that kind of thing. And then another coach would do down and distance, yard line, hash game. So in Huddle Assist, I'm thinking you send it in and they guarantee it to get your game back within 24 hours. A lot of times it's a lot quicker than that. So I'm thinking maybe they have AI, some kind of crazy thing to do that. No, they don't have AI. I thought, okay, maybe they got some older retired coaches that they pay, maybe get in there and do that. No, they've got places in like Thailand and over in Asia where it's just big factories, and there's women in there that's inputting data for high school football games. So it's pretty cool. I was like, the guy from at Huddle was telling me this. I'm like, you're serious? He's like, yeah. But you always have to double check their work. They don't always get it right. So you just have to go back double check. But it is pretty crazy though. A lot of people don't know that.
Wow.
A lot of coaches don't know that's how that's done.
Well,
but there's still a lot of work on our end, but that does take one coach's role out and save him probably 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday.
Lauren was just telling us, we asked him something about Kirby, and he's like, well, he doesn't have to sit and basically sleep at the office and splice film until 4 a.m. so he does get a chance to go home and see his family every now and then.
That's an interesting impression of it, by the way.
So, anyway, but that question kind of feeds into this getting to know Coach Groves segment here.
The triumphant return.
That's right. We're bringing it back, but we're talking about how technology is advanced. So what we're going to ask you is, since we make so many 80s references on this show, being children of the 80s, if you had a DeLorean, which that's what's sitting on the table here, Matt can show the viewers.
See what we got going on here, man. This was in my son's collection. Now it's in my collection here. There we go.
Good stuff. But if you had the DeLorean, if it were a real thing, what event, it could be sports, historical event, music, etc., would you travel back in time to attend?
Well, it'd definitely probably be something sports related. I think, as the Braves fan, lifelong Braves fan, and some people may, but I think the 92 NLCS, when Sid slid, that would be a great game to be at.
Heck yeah.
And then obviously the 95 World Series, Game 6, Glavine shut them out, and that would be pretty cool to be there too. Complete game shutout, which pitchers don't even do anymore. So, they do 5 or 6 innings and they bring in the middle guy and then out. But to do that in the World Series, pretty good. Maybe Michael Jordan's the shot against the Jazz.
Oh yeah,
Game 6.
Yeah.
That was
Or
pretty
the
good.
food poisoning game. We don't know.
Yeah, could be.
Either or.
Food poisoning, I think, is what it finally come out to be.
Yeah.
And then maybe being the Sugar Bowl when the Dogs won it in '81.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good. '81 Sugar Bowl. That'd be pretty cool to be at. See Herschel over the top and all that.
Yeah.
Ian, do you have anything you want to throw in there for that?
Oh, there's plenty that I would go. But I'd like to be there for Hank Aaron's home run. My father was at that game, and I
My
wish I could
grandfather
get,
was there, and I've got one of those little postcards or whatever that said you were there that he gave me from being there, which is pretty neat. But
Yeah, and then my other is I would love to go back in time and watch Pink Floyd play live at Pompeii. Nobody went to that show, but if I had a DeLorean, I feel like I could just pull
make
up.
it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, sports-wise, it's less of necessarily a specific game or event, but I love old ballparks. So if I could go back in time and visit like Ebbets Field, or I never went to Tiger Stadium, that sort of thing.
that one was
I'd
on my
like to
list.
go back and see some of those classic venues of sports that don't exist anymore and see what that was like during that period of time. That'd be pretty neat. From a music standpoint, I'm a big Stones fan. So to go back from like 1969 to 72, when you had Sticky Fingers era, Let It Bleed, Exile on Main Street, that era, to see them live during that sweet spot in the late 60s, early 70s, that would be on my list. So there you go.
Yeah, I have a Bad Day Rolling Stones YouTube video in which a crazed fan rushes the stage and goes after Mick Jagger, and you see Keith Richards with a cigarette in his hand. I'm not encouraging anybody out there to smoke if there's kids watching, but he doesn't even take the cigarette out of his mouth. He takes his guitar off, hits the fan to get him away from Mick, and then puts it back on and hits the note right. I mean, so if I'm having a bad day, that is my go-to video. So yeah, I'd go back and see the Stones in that era too.
It'd be
no doubt.
nice. I've seen them a few times, but it was, in the early 90s moving forward, and they were great shows. But to go during that time, it'd just be different. It'd be special. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our second segment of the show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to start breaking down the next opponent. It is a rivalry game, no matter what you want to say. The fans are going to view it that way. No question about that. It's the Pepperell Dragons hosting the Darlington Tigers in Lindale. It's about a 4-mile trip. Go across the railroad tracks. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere. Can't wait for this game. Can't wait to dive in and talk about it with Coach Groves. This is the Coach Groves Show, and we will be right back.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
And we welcome you back to this episode of the Coach Groves Show as we get ready for Game 6 to kick off here this weekend, Friday night, down in Lindale, as the Darlington Tigers hit the road to face the Pepperell Dragons. So we'll just go ahead and dive into the matchup, Coach. And, of course, we talked about it's a short trip. To get to the game, you guys, one of the things that's interesting about talking to you about this matchup is that you've been on both sides. You were a player at Pepperell, everybody knows that, and you've been the head coach at Darlington for the last few years, so you've been in this situation a few times. So obviously people get super enthusiastic about this matchup. You got Darlington playing another local school. What do you think makes this matchup so special that gets people so fired up about it?
Yeah, well, I think, it's just the classic public versus private, rivalry. And all the public schools are always going to say the same things about us. They're the rich kids, they're the spoiled kids. You'll never be like them. This is your chance to get after them. All those things, and they're saying it. Because I would say the same thing too if I was on the other side. Right. But what people don't understand is we have a ton of blue collar kids too. We have a ton of tough kids too. And so our kids have pride in their program too. So it's not going to be an easy deal for either team. It's going to be a good hard nosed football game and just one for the fans to watch. Just because you're 4 miles apart, people in the communities are friends and know each other. So you're going to have to hear about it. For 365 days. They heard about the hook and ladder last year. And so, they want to get their taste out of their mouth too. So, it's going to be a good ball game. It's all in good fun, with everything that goes on in the world. We know that football is not the most important thing, but it is pretty important on Friday at 7:30 in Lindale. It will be. So, it's going to be a good ball game. We got a lot of respect for their coaching staff. They've got some really good football players you're going to see. We've got some good players. They're going to make some good plays. We're going to make some good plays. And it's just going to be fun for the fans and a great atmosphere to be at. So we're looking forward to it. This is why you play high school football for your kid, for these type of moments. And both sides are going to get that. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pat, the Dragons are coming off a big, what many would consider an upset win over Temple last week. Got the win on the road, pulled away late. What do you see as the primary strengths of this Dragon squad?
Well, they are able to run the football really well. They do a great job with their skill guys in the screen game and getting their different playmakers out in space. And then on defense, they're really sound and fundamental and really solid. So, there's a reason why they beat a good Temple team last week. You don't win those games without having a good coaching staff and having the players play hard. So we have a lot of respect for them, and we're looking forward to the challenge.
Coach, one of the things that we talked about last week, and it's kind of been a theme as leading up to region play, is you have a year this year where a lot of teams bring back a lot of familiar names. There's a lot of experience with you guys. There's a lot of experience with Haralson County last week. And then when you run down the list of region teams, that's pretty much true across the board, as is the case with this Pepperell Dragons team. So I know that when we talk about some of their players to keep an eye on, there's some guys that we've heard their names the last couple of years, correct?
Yeah, and a lot of these guys have been starters for, 2 and 3 years, 2 and 3 years, some have been 4-year starters. On offense, they run a pro style offense. They're very multiple. They play with 10 personnel with no tight end. They'll play with, 11 personnel with one. They'll play with 21 personnel, and then they'll even get in empty and 2 tight ends and even 3 tight end formations. So, I think their offense coordinator does a really good job. On defense, they're going to be a 3-4 defense. You're going to see a lot of cover four. They're going to roll their coverages. They're going to, you may even get into some even front, reduce down, get into some even front, and play some 4-2. So, but some of the players you're gonna know, wide receiver, outside linebacker. He played quarterback last year, number 6, Sam Ross. I think he's a really good football player. He's a really tough kid, and he's kind of the guy they try to get the ball to. Running back number 2, Maddox Garcia, is another one. Him and they're A and B right there in the backfield and at receiver. Outside linebacker, tight end number 89, Hayden Wheat. He's 6 foot, 250 pounds. D lineman number 56, Doug Walters, is a really good ball player, 5'11", 254. They got a tight end, 2 tight ends. Number 7, Chris Applett, who's a senior, and then number 8, Tyler Barkley, is going to be a really good player. He's a freshman for them, and then number 79, defensive lineman, O-lineman, Steven Sapp, is a big kid. He's about 6'3", 300.
Excellent, Coach. Well, what are the keys to success if you're going to pull off the win in Lindale Friday?
Well, we understand it's going to be an intense physical game. In those type of games, you have to be in the right mental mindset. I tell the kids you have to be in that perfect combination of being physical and playing hard, but still being able to mentally focus and get your job done. And sometimes you can get too hyped up, you can get too crazy and not get the job done. And so that we want to find that perfect combination. So that's going to be a key, especially in big games like this that are rivalry games, big region games. We have to be smart. We've got to have to execute, do all the little things right that you've been coached to do. We've got to do the little things right. We've got to take care of the football. We want to control the football with our offense, and we want to play physical and smart. So if we can do that, we'll be in the game in the fourth quarter, and we'll have a chance to win.
Excellent. Well, my final question. What's the uni combination? But little caveat to that. Who all is involved in that decision and what's the process? Is this the coach's decision, or do you let the kids have some input?
So on senior night, I always ask the seniors what combination they want to wear. But on normal games, that's just a me decision and just what I feel like doing.
Excellent.
I don't know if you're looking for a better answer.
No, that's great. That's great.
We just poll the coaches and we do a vote. So we're going to wear the white on white stormtrooper look. We're going to go to Lindale in that, and I think that's a classic Darlington Road look. And so.
Heck yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a good combination for us.
It's a simple process.
It is.
And it works.
Yep.
So, there you go. I like it. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We always enjoy having the opportunity to catch up with you, Coach, each and every week and kind of review the past week and talk about the upcoming opponent, and then even throw in there some random questions and stuff like that, and just have some conversation about all things Darlington Tigers football. So thank you for your time, as always. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. That's going to put a wrap on this edition of the Coach Grove Show. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we hope to see you down in Lindale wearing your purple. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see you Friday night.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Coach Groves Show. We invite you to join us again next week as we discuss all things Darlington football with head coach Wayne Groves. Go Tigers!